My name is Dr. Paris Thomas, and welcome to Thrive Alive Presents. I am Dr. Paris Thomas. I am a public health researcher. I consider myself a community health science because my whole career has really focused on community. I have been in the public health space really for a while now, really focused in health disparities for historically marginalized communities because I myself grew up in a marginalized community. As an individual who is originating from the west side and west suburbs of Chicago, I've spent time in Austin, I've spent time in Maywood, Illinois. If you're familiar with the demographics around those communities, these are communities that have historically been under-resourced and do not have the same access to resources as others. And that has played a part specifically within my family outcomes. So I've had aunts who have died from breast cancer. I've had aunts who've been diagnosed with breast cancer. I have a mother who is a 2-time breast cancer survivor. Breast cancer for me specifically is one that hits home. I know for a fact that I had to be screened earlier because of how the trajectory of my family and who it impacted. I also know that my children, my little girls will have to be screened at an earlier age. And just to know that early detection could potentially save their lives versus the unknown. And the unknown can be so challenging as we see women in their early 20s being diagnosed with very advanced cancers or even dying. We all deserve to live and we need access to that. And I believe in providing health equity for everyone, regardless of status. So Equal Hope is a service provider of 3 main frameworks. We have a consortium, which is the data arm of Equal Hope, which means that we're collecting data and creating community reports to share with the community to understand the disparities in the work here in the spaces of breast cancer, cervical cancer, and primary care. Equal Hope's second pillar is our advocacy and policy realm. We actually have a health ambassadors program where we're engaging young people between the ages of 18 to 24 to equip them with the tools to be community organizers. We're also pushing legislation to ensure that all individuals in Illinois have access to quality screening and care. And the third part of our program, which is usually the one that the community is most familiar with, is our outreach, education, and patient navigation program. Equal Hope was formed in 2008 based on data that came out of Sinai Urban Institute showing that Black women were dying at a 62% higher mortality rate than white women here in the city of Chicago. Now, the relevance of this data is that prior to the 2008 framework, there was almost no disparity between Black and white women in breast cancer disparities. We know genetically, breast is no difference between Black and white women. We also looked at other cities such as New York and Philadelphia and San Francisco, and those cities almost had no disparity, but yet Black women were dying at such stark numbers here in Chicago. And so we were originally formed as a coalition to really get together around this data and understand why this problem existed. And so several things came out of that conversation. The first was access to quality treatment. Ensuring that individuals and Black women specifically had access to quality treatment, which we felt like was a barrier. Access to mammography and quality mammography, where you get your mammogram makes a difference. And we ensured that, but then also just access to care in general. As far as where you live, we saw through a map that where a person resides versus some of our accredited cancer centers are not adjacent, where the highest mortality rates are. So all of these things played a part as far as why Equal Hope was originally started, but the need was that the community was dying from a disease that they didn't need to be dying from. So Equal Hope's name is pretty interesting. When we were formed in 2008, our original name was the Metropolitan Chicago Breast Cancer Task Force. That is a lot. It is a lot for anyone to say. It is a lot for our patient navigators to call clients and have the word cancer. People panic. If cancer is on the voicemail, I'm panicking. Why is somebody saying cancer on my voicemail? So in 2018, it was just appropriate for us to change our name to Equal Hope, specifically because we had expanded our scope to cervical cancer and some other holistic initiatives, but also the word Equal Hope translates also for our Latinx community, Esperanza para Todos, I believe. And so in both, we did a community kind of convening to ensure that the name resonated with both populations, and it is the name that was chosen. I think Equal Hope represents a lot when we talk about the work that we're doing. We're giving hope to individuals who have been historically marginalized or historically disinvested in. We're pouring into communities that are historically under-resourced. And I think it's important that we're there providing those resources at no cost to those individuals so that they can access the same quality care as a woman with a high tax bracket and a full-time job. You should be able to access care regardless of your status in life. That should be a right for anyone, regardless of status, income, or where you live. For someone who was scared to get a screening or had some hesitancy, I think the thing I would say to them is that the more we know, the better. The longer we can live, the longer we can be here for our children, the longer we can participate in life. So although there is some frightfulness around that, I think it is important to still understand and be educated and read up. And if you need an advocate, just know that you don't have to go through it alone. You can get a patient navigator. You can contact programs like Equal Hope, and we will be there right with you, having these conversations and helping you understand why early detection is important. You may say, like, not now, I'll worry about that later. I know I'm supposed to get it. But the problem is, if we keep waiting later, we're going to continue to die at advanced rates for cancers. And it's really important that we tackle these diseases sooner so that we can be here for our generations of children to come and be able to pour into them this type of education so that they aren't growing up without a mother or a grandmother or aunt or a cousin. For the month of January, which was Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, we hosted a community event called Tail Talk. This is our second year hosting it. It is a cervical cancer education event to engage the community in cervical cancer awareness. But the portrait here, everyone in the community painted a smaller portion, but this big portion here was painted by everyone who attended that event, who was a survivor or a community member or an Equal Hope staff member. So they all got what we called a stroke of this painting and created this piece, which is a community collaborative that focuses and brings the beauty to cancer. I think cancer can be such a daunting term and we're all scared of it. But when we talk about cervical cancer in that teal, this is the beautiful side of that. The side that survivors are on the other side and they get to tell their stories and inform other people about this with the work that Equal Hope is doing, combating these health disparities and this data that is showing that we die at more aggressive stages. So this is our community painting. This painting will be auctioned off at our gala this year, which is our Celebrating Life Gala, which happens on June 20th. We are hoping that individuals will want to take this beautiful collection of just community collaborative home. And we're excited to show it to our stakeholders and those that support and invest in Equal Hope's mission. So the community can get involved with Equal Hope by several mechanisms. The first is through advocacy. I believe that we all are our best advocates for our own healthcare situations. We can, of course, provide patient navigators, but giving you the tools to be able to advocate on your own in case we aren't there. So I think individuals can engage with us that way. They can go down to Springfield and help us lobby for more money for programs like the Illinois Breast and Cervical Cancer Program, which serves its purpose of ensuring that women of color, and especially those who are uninsured and underinsured, are accessing those screenings for free. The other piece is they could always volunteer. We're always in the community, especially the communities within the west and south side of Chicago, really doing this work, and they can volunteer their time and show up for some of the events we do. We host our own events. We go to the Black Women's Health Expo. We do all of these things to ensure that the community is accessing Equal Hope's brand and ensuring that individuals know that Equal Hope is there for them as an option if they wanted an additional partner to walk them through that space of care. They can contact us. Our website is equalhope.org. They are welcome to call us at 312-942-3368, or, just visit our social media sites, which I believe are equalhope_IL, and we are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, X.